Musical Talk, the UK independent musical theatre podcast.
Hello, welcome to Musical Talk. My name is Nick Cutson. It's very rare that I actually do an Edinburgh episode. That's usually down to Thos, and I'm very grateful to him. But sitting across from me are two friends who have just recently returned from the Festival Fringe, haven't you?
Yes, very recent.
Talking to Harrison and Tabitha. Hello, Harrison and Tabitha.
Hello.
Hi. We cover Edinburgh in huge detail on this podcast. Was this your first time ever going to Edinburgh for the Fringe? Did you go for the Fringe on purpose, or was it just when you happened to book?
It was coincidental, wasn't it? We're just going to visit family, and the Fringe was on, so we just spent every day checking out different shows and musicals and whatnot.
And it's overwhelming, isn't it?
It's too much to do. Yeah. But it's also cheap as well. What? Brilliant.
So you saw two musicals there that you can remember. One has the greatest title I think I've ever heard.
Yeah, it wasn't a musical. It was a comedy set based on a musical.
Yeah, so. And it was the person whose name was
Edy Hurst
presents a comedy version of Jeff Wayne's musical version of Orson Welles' version of H.G. Wells' version of War of the Worlds. Is that correct?
And Steven Spielberg's version.
And Steven Spielberg's version.
He says it. Yeah.
Now, War of the Worlds is one of your favourite concept albums of all time, isn't it? Yeah. I'm not going to call it a musical because I don't think it is a musical.
Well, it is a musical. It uses music to convey a story
as an album,
which is musical.
I guess you could say that. We'll get into the semantics of it later. But did you know this was playing in Edinburgh when you were looking up things, or because I know you can sort of get a leaflet of what's on at Edinburgh, and it's like the size of the Yellow Pages or something.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we got one of those, and as soon as I saw War of the Worlds, I booked it.
Ticked it.
Straight away, yeah.
And was it, because usually in Edinburgh some shows are in interesting locations, like the back of pubs and things, and toilets and stuff, and schoolrooms, and where was this?
Well, this was in the attic of like a really dodgy pub, yeah.
Okay. So it kind of worked with the feel of the piece.
Yeah, definitely.
And should we start with the interview that you did with the creator?
Yeah.
You may not remember doing the interview.
No, I was a little bit tipsy at the time, but yeah.
But you did interview the creator. Tell us about how that happened and what you said.
Oh, he was a lovely guy, and he actually stood by the door and said goodbye to everybody as they were leaving. And I just said, do you have 5 minutes to talk? And so he did. Yeah.
So he did a 10-minute interview.
Oh, yeah, about that, yeah.
Thank you very much, Harrison. And who's it with, the creator?
Edy Hurst.
Here he is with Edy Hurst.
Hello, so we're here with Edy Hurst after watching Edy Hurst's comedy production of the...
Should I do it?
Yeah, go on.
Because I've spent too much of my life saying this over and over again. Is Edy Hurst's comedy version of Jeff Wayne's musical version of H.G. Wells' literary version via Orson Welles' radio version and Steven Spielberg's film version of The War of the Worlds.
Parentheses.
Yes, thank you for adding that. I do appreciate that.
Yes, it was absolutely brilliant. We really enjoyed it. Absolutely cracked me up the whole show. What inspired you to do a comedy set based on one of the best musicals of all time, in my opinion?
Well, yeah, I love Jeff Wayne's musical version of The War of the Worlds so much. One of my favourite things about Jeff Wayne's musical version of The War of the Worlds is that he called it Jeff Wayne's musical version of the... as if there are so many other musical versions of The War of the Worlds that exist that people are like, yeah, but it's Jeff's. Perfect. But it's amazing. So I've always loved the musical. I found it was one of those records that, like, my mum and dad bought a turntable, just on the cusp of vinyl coming back, and I rummaged through their little box of records, and there was 2 vinyls in there. There was the goodies, the best of the goodies, and there was Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds, and I feel like both of them pretty much sum up the show fairly accurately. So it started life as a small bit in my debut show, Hurst Schmurst, which I did in 2019, and I realised, 1, it didn't really fit in there, and 2, it was way bigger than like a 5-minute bit. Yeah. And then it just kept spiralling. And so started in 2019. Then I don't know if you guys heard, but there was this pandemic. These germs came over, and obviously for fans of the book and the story, germs have played a bigger part in our lives than I ever expected writing the show. And so, yeah, there we are.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah.
So there's a couple different shows at the moment with the same title. Absolutely. How did you deal with a competition? Or?
Sure. Well, look, I mean, next year is the 125th anniversary of the book being published.
of Jeff Wayne's
I know
version
Jeff.
of,
He's so prescient.
of H.G. Wells' literal version of Orson
Yes.
Welles' radio version of
Yes.
speaker version. Oh God, yeah, go on.
Absolutely, yes. No, so I feel like there's probably that, but that's kind of the point of my show, is how many versions of it there is. So the fact that there are versions just makes my show funnier.
Yes.
And it feels like every year, because it's such a great story, and also I think one of the things that makes it so great and so powerful and remade is because it fits into so many things. It can reflect so many different points of view. Like, I remember in 2019 I went to see a really good production by Rum and Clay, I think their names were, which was like sort of set in modern times, like based on fake news, completely different from the original book, but really. So for me, it only made my case that we should put an end to it stronger.
Yeah. I did like the fact you referenced, because you said about like there are things that haven't been made into War of the Worlds, like a restaurant, and he said about the layered reality, which I'm yet to see. Have you seen?
I've not. I'm going to see it soon. I'm very excited. I'm seeing it at the end of the year.
I've got to wait till November to see it. But
Oh, really?
I'm very excited because I've seen their gunpowder plot. They've done a gunpowder.
Oh,
I've seen that. That
nice.
was absolutely brilliant. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what they do with War of the Worlds.
I've heard it's really good. And Jeff himself, Jeff Wayne had an active. He was like a producer in it, so he had a really active part in it. So it's legit.
Yes, yeah. Really,
What was the process like to be part of Edinburgh Fringe?
Well, I'm only doing a week. A coward's run, if you will. Nobody's called it that yet, but I'm coining the phrase coward's run. So it's been quite chilled for me, really. Like, this is only the second show I've done, and the numbers have been good for me. I know last time I was here, 2019, was tougher. It's a debut. I think your debut's always, there's so much you put into it, and so much time and money, and obviously, like, I think it's really good that we're having those conversations about like accommodation costs and what it costs for performers, but it isn't great to do, and it's like you come and you go, oh yeah, I really love this city and I love doing shows at the Fringe, that's great. But yes, we should, but also it's nice to be up too.
yeah.
What a wishy-washy answer, I'm so sorry.
I'll tell you what, I did not expect in the attic of a pub. I did not expect to laugh that much in the attic of a pub, laughing about my favourite story of all time and my favourite musical based on my favourite musical, my favourite story of all time.
Thank you.
It's and the sign you've got right now, I will get a picture.
Yeah,
but
big hoop.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you make all your own props and stuff?
Yeah, could you tell?
They were amazing though.
Thank
Really
you.
well
Well,
done.
that's what being locked in your house for 2 years will do for you.
With the little door stoppers as antennas.
Yeah. Well, that guy is only one person's. So it's a very niche reference. It's there's a. Actually, no, I shouldn't say because I might get sued. Forget it. I won't get sued, but.
Eddie has giant 15-foot Martians come out during the middle of his show to accurately reflect H.G. Wells' original vision. Would you say?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll go for. I mean, exactly. You know, it's all about exaggerate. You know, bending the truth a little bit for promotion. So if we want to say 15 feet, why not?
Yes,
Let's do it.
Absolutely. How long are you playing at the Edinburgh Fringe?
So I'm here until next Tuesday, the 23rd of August, and then after that, I'm going to be doing a tour of it next year to coincide with the 125th anniversary. So keep your eyes out for that. And also, if you're not here during that, I have a podcast where I still am reading the book chapter by chapter and adding in like deep dive tangents and stuff, getting comedy guests in, and it was, I don't want to brag, guys, but it was the #1 science fiction podcast in Bermuda for 2 whole weeks. So whoa, watch out for this guy.
Well, Edy Hurst at the... Oh, you got one more question? I'm sorry.
At the beginning you mentioned having ADHD. Do you actually have it, and how does it impact your work?
Do I actually? That's a fair question. I think so. I have been waiting on the NHS for a assessment
You'll be waiting for a few years, yeah.
for a good while.
Self-diagnosis is valid.
Well, yeah, this is it. I think like the more I find out about it, the more it's just like more things in my life slot into place. Like, earlier today, I spent maybe half an hour, 40 minutes walking, doing about 5 laps, going like, I need to eat some food. Where should I eat? Oh god, because there's this thing called ADHD brain freeze, which is when you have too many options, which obviously at like the biggest arts festival in the world with food everywhere is very. So that's an insight into my life that I'm sure everyone's really happy to have heard about. But yeah. So what was the second part of the question? Sorry.
How does it impact your work?
Well, I think this show. So over lockdown, I sort of learned more about it and became more aware of it, and I think that this show especially. Is kind of trying to show how my head works a bit more. Maybe being a bit. It's been really useful to actually be like, oh, this is why there's that. This makes sense, and that's fine. It's not like I need to. I don't know. I don't know how to word it. It's quite, but like, it's valid. Does that make sense? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like a very long title is like, well, that's the only way that my head is going to be able to process putting everything I want in here. So that's maybe kind of the point of that.
I must say, the very long title is what drew me. I mean, War of the Worlds is what drew me to the show, but the amazingly long title that they couldn't even fit in the little boxes that they made for the programme is what drew me to the show.
Good, thank you. I'm glad it worked.
Yes, it was brilliant. Is that all?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay.
So, Edy Hurst, comedy version of
Jeff
Wayne's musical version of H.G. Wells' literal version of
parentheses
via Orson Welles' radio version of
you stole me. And
Steven Spielberg's film version of The War of the Worlds at the Edinburgh Fringe, and soon coming on tour for the 125th anniversary of H.G. Wells' literary version of The War of the Worlds. Edy Hurst, great guy. Lovely to meet you.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thanks so much for coming.
And thank you for taking your time out of the evening.
You're very welcome.
Brilliant.
Thanks for letting me talk bollocks.
We all do. Anyway, thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you, Harrison. Do you remember that interview at all?
Yeah, not at the moment.
Tabitha, do you remember it?
Yeah, I do.
I remember standing there.
So what were your thoughts on Edinburgh?
It was amazing. I'd been a couple times, but this was the first time I'd been to actually like watch shows.
Yeah.
And they were all incredible.
And the Golden Mile is the kind of area where it's all happening, isn't it? And it is. How many flyers would you say that you were given?
Attempted to given hundreds.
God.
It was just an assault.
Yeah, but fun.
Yeah.
So you saw another musical as well, which has also played at the Udderbelly here, called Unfortunate, which is this kind of, ever since Wicked, we now have to have backstories for every villain there's ever been, ever. So we've had Maleficent, and now we have how Ursula came to be. How does this production exist in a world where things like Bridgerton and Netflix are all suing each other and things like that? So does it actually mention Ursula at all? Does it have any reference to Disney or...
There's a whole song about we didn't make it to Disney.
Okay.
With rejected animals and things. It's very tongue-in-cheek, disgustingly rude, which I loved.
Yeah.
But it's not advertised as that, surprisingly. It just looks like a normal...
family-friendly musical.
It looks it.
Like it.
Yeah. And then you got in there and...
So what does it do? Tell us how it works.
It's basically got Ursula, and she's explaining how she came to be a villain. So just like every backstory, really.
So she narrates it, or is it a one-woman show, or is it a big...
the first kind of act, if you were, was her backstory and her history with
King Neptune, whatever his name is.
And then the second part is more of a kind of her interaction with Ariel and like that part. So it's in two parts.
And is it just her, or was it other actors as well?
There's quite a few. There's puppeteers and
very nice.
5 or 6 actors as a whole.
Yeah,
quite a big budget for Edinburgh. Well, I guess it came from Udderbelly first, didn't it? And but who was the target market? Would you say, if you say it didn't match the advertising? Were you shocked when it was?
Definitely. The music as you come in was quite
WAP and what is it like?
Anaconda.
Yeah.
Okay, so like creatures.
Yeah.
WAP, if you don't know, older listeners, is an acronym for something, which you may Google, and I'm sure urbandictionary.com will tell you what it is.
don't
I'm very
listen.
impressed. I know that anyway myself.
Yeah.
But funny?
Yes,
Yeah,
it was
hilarious.
very not Monty Python, although there was one actor in it who was very Monty Python-esque,
Mm-hmm.
but the way they did it, the fact they took the mick out of everybody.
Okay.
Is
So
very,
no one was safe. So it's
No,
more like
no one
South
was
Park
safe. No.
style,
Yeah.
Book of Mormon humour.
Yeah,
It's
brilliant.
interesting you saw 2 parody shows, like unofficial parody shows. That's what you like, isn't it?
Yeah, we mainly
And
went for comedy.
if you were to mount one in the West End tomorrow, like if you were to say to the performers, have a theatre, which one would do better, do you think?
What, between the 2 we saw?
Yeah.
Well, Edy Hurst.
In the
was-
left ring.
Edy Hurst was just a stand-up
Okay.
routine. It wasn't like a proper musical.
So he wasn't singing the songs. or
No.
anything, or-
But he did have some interesting costume change.
Okay. Does he play the demagogues or whatever? No, that's
Yeah,
Strange
the
Things, isn't it?
Martians,
Does he play the
yeah.
Martians as well?
He came in a big suit. I'm sure he's got a picture on
Yeah.
his Instagram, which came out in this massive homemade suit. It was brilliant. What did he do at the start? So he had Looney Tunes entrance. He had this massive ring. In fact, we took a picture with him. I'll post it. And he just stuck his head through and climbed through the ring.
Brilliant. Well, it sounds very zany and very Edinburgh, if you know what I mean. What was your highlight, Tabitha, out of the 2? Well, maybe you saw other things. I don't know. Did you see anything else?
Randy Feltface was good. So that was a comedian puppet. It was basically stand-up by a puppet.
I think Unfortunate was definitely a highlight though, because we were both laughing and everyone was. It was really funny.
And it had original songs.
Yeah, they
It
were
was all original, yeah.
original. Again, lots of puppets, lots of like amazing kind of different costumes, and
Yeah.
everyone had different costumes and they were all really detailed.
Because this is what you want to do in the theatre.
Oh,
You want
yeah.
to get into costume and makeup and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you probably got a big kick out of it from
Yeah.
that side of things. Especially for a show that Edinburgh is more... I mean, you have the big shows in Edinburgh, especially when it comes to comedy and magic and stuff like that. But a lot of Edinburgh is kind of like with War of the Worlds. It has that kind of homemade aspect to it, which is the charm of Edinburgh, just done by 19 million people at the same time. But it seems to me you got a kind of a showy, theatrically bigger show, and with War of the Worlds you got kind of the other end of the scale.
Yeah.
And it proves how great Edinburgh is that you can both enjoy both ends of the scale, if you know what I mean.
I mean, we did see another production of War of the Worlds as well, which was just the dramatic
Of course you did.
version of the book. But that was one man on a stage with just a... I don't know if it's PowerPoint presentation, but it was still...
Slide
backdrops.
projected slideshows, yeah. And you probably rather gone to the comedy one again, I'm guessing, by your
Yes.
tone.
No, I don't like to say bad things. It just
You
wasn't...
don't like to moan.
Don't like to moan.
I mean, what?
It just wasn't up for
Why
us.
War of the Worlds? Why 2 versions of War of the Worlds?
I think it's
All of
just... I did actually ask Eddie that, and I think it's just such an iconic story. It's an epic story to do,
Yeah.
and there is so much about it.
I mean, we the other day, we were in the area where Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds was set, and we had to stop
Yes,
and go to Horsey Common
at 10:30 at night.
to find the sandpit where the Martians invaded, and you were quite happy, weren't you?
Yeah, it's so iconic.
I still don't think it's a musical, though. I think if it were done... I know when they put it on stage, it's advertised as like the musical extravaganza,
Yeah,
but does it have different people singing the songs?
I see what you mean, because it's not like characters singing to each other. It's just narration,
Yeah.
and then the same lyric repeated 50 times
Yeah,
before the song
chances
ends.
of anything coming to Earth or 1,000,000 to 1. But they're good songs. I just
Oh,
don't
yeah.
think it's a musical.
Well, according to Google, a musical play or film which singing and dancing play an essential part. So it depends whether you'd say it's essential.
But yeah, I guess-
700 episodes in, and we're still defining a musical. It's lovely, isn't it? But yeah, I don't know. Which I think knowing my style, I'd probably rather see. I know we're comparing a musical to a stand-up show, but I'd probably rather see Unfortunate, and I hope it does
yeah.
have a life. Anything else you want to add, Harrison? Short but sweet episode this week, but we thought we'd just share little thoughts on Edinburgh. Any tips for people going to Edinburgh for the first time as an audience member?
Know
for the
what
lay
you want to
mind?
see first.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we did come across one thing, not really musical theatre, more for the other podcast, it's more immersive theatre. What was it called? The Smile
All the
of
Worlds. The immersive. That's in London. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, it's The Smile of Your Face. It was a Belgian company. I won't bore you with the details, but basically got tied up in a wheelchair and blindfolded, and it was very sensory.
It's Saturday night out for me myself.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so, know what you want to see before.
Yeah, you can get this big book in the post, which is free, which has everything. We just went through, didn't we? We ticked
Online, I'm probably
everything.
guessing to save the trees.
Yeah. I mean, there is. Although I found the website quite confusing.
I guess with a book, you can just keep flicking until you find what you want. So know what you want to see. I guess prices all over the place, aren't they? You can probably see some things are quite cheap and quite expensive.
I know a lot of them have pay what you can, where you can pay on the door. You can pay like £2, £3.
And we have student tickets as well.
Very good.
Which they didn't ask once to see a student ID.
Oh, that's their
unofficial tip.
And how long were you there for?
We had 3 days in Edinburgh, didn't we? Yeah.
Is that enough? Or were there more shows that you noticed?
Yeah, definitely would have liked a few more days in there.
I mean, that's what's great about it. It is the world's biggest arts festival, which is amazing that it happens in Scotland. And it's provided many, many thousands of hours of entertainment here on Musical Talk. Thank you, Harrison. Thank you, Tabitha. I hope. Would you go next year?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Cool. We'll have you on then, and you can share your thoughts on Edinburgh when you're no longer stunned by it all. And
we'll drag you up next year.
Become professionals. Oh, that'd be lovely. Thank you. See you soon, listeners. Thank you so much. We'll have more Edinburgh coming up next week from Thos. Until then, I'm Nick Hudson. This is Harrison and Tabitha signing off. Goodbye.
Au revoir.
Goodbye. For more information about Musical Talk, please visit our website at musicaltalk.co.uk. You can email us at feedback@musicaltalk.co.uk, listen to past episodes on iTunes and YouTube, and follow our social media channels on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Insert here.
How on?